Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. So I was going to do another shallow dive here, which is where I kind of go into the roadmap and pick out little pieces here and there that I think are interesting or ones that have big changes, things that are wrapping up or have wrapped up since the last time we did this 2 weeks ago. This is not going to be the deep dive. Deep dive is the one that I did at the beginning of the patch, and I'll do another one for each patch, and that one I'll go into a lot more depth of what individual deliverables on the roadmap are. On this one, I'm mostly just going to kind of focus on, hey, this thing's wrapping, it kind of does this, and move on to the next one pretty quick. Uh, but as I did in the last one, I thought I'd start with the roadmap roundup. Always a good place to start when you're looking at the roadmap, just because they'll tell you some things that you don't always see. So I'll just go ahead and I'll read through this. If you want to skip ahead, I'll put a little timestamp in there and you can jump past this if you've already read it. Or again, there are other people that read this off and kind of go into more depth about this page than I do, and probably have better radio voices. So if you want to listen to them, listen to them. So let's go into the notable changes, because this is usually where the meat is. Release view. The following cards have been added to the release view as well as marked as committed. That means that they're saying they're about 90% sure they'll be in the next patch. Colonialism Outpost, Derelict. Implementation of derelict outpost locations through Stanton with colonialism theme. That's pretty cool. These locations will launch with missions, loot, and hostile AI encounters. So, quick aside on that, I kind of wish that they'd have a few that are just towns. So you're not always encountering hostile AI. You can land and trade with them, would be really cool. But I guess right now the combat AI, especially with Squadron 42, is probably a lot further along. This feature has been added to Alpha 317 column and is targeting delivery in Q2 in 317.2. So coming pretty quick here. This is the one that's in Evocati right now. AI, dropships and reinforcements. This one's kind of cool. Enabling AI ships to land and deliver reinforcements on non-structured ground areas, such as planetary terrain, where a predefined landing area and assistance from air traffic control is not available. This feature has been added to the 317 column and is targeting Q2 and 317.2. Progress Tracker is the one that I dive into. The following deliverable has been added to Progress Tracker. Asteroid facilities. They added more than this one. We'll get into that. Adding new asteroid facilities to the persistent universe. This has been needed for a while. Handcrafted traversable areas offering different gameplay opportunities both in the interior and exterior of asteroids. This deliverable has been added to the EU Sandbox 1 team schedule. Due to a shift in priority for the vehicle concept art team, both to await specific systems coming online as well as additional resources needed on other upcoming vehicles, the following deliverables have been temporarily removed from the progress tracker until additional resources are allocated. RSI Orion, sorry Big Miners, Miss Cole B, Miss Cole D, Miss Cole E, Crusader, Genesis, Starliner, sorry Jared. That's all for us. Join us on the discussion on Spectrum, Roadmap Companion Guide. Let's go ahead and pop over and dive in. So I've got a couple notes here. Again, I'll do it the way that I usually do. I'll have kind of quick edits, so you'll see a little shimmer in my being here as I cut out various parts as I'm just sitting here scrolling through, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first one that we're getting to is Actor Status 2. So this right here, one of the reasons I'm calling this one out is kind of people are speculating about when Squadron 42 might drop. Actor Status 2 is absolutely required, and this one's out in Q2 of next year. Yeah, Squadron 42 is still a ways out, people. Okay, let's keep going. So this one, for whatever reason, I'm not sure if I missed it before, but I thought this one was just for Squadron 42. It turns out it's for Star Citizen 2, so we might actually be seeing that helmet in game, and I'll see if I can find the video of that, but it's the one where it kind of closes up and then opens up kind of like an Iron Man helmet. It's pretty cool. So let's go on down. So we've got the Anvil Legionnaire, 69 weeks. Nice. Again, it's one of those things where it's not actually 69 straight weeks of work. It's this team works on it, this team works on it, and then another team is scheduled to work on it in like December or so. Yeah, probably November. But we're just kind of plugging through that dead zone until the team can come back and work on it again. So here's Asteroid Facilities. Here's the one that they just mentioned in the roadmap roundup. 26 weeks, so about half a year of CIG time. Starts next week, so it actually should be starting, yeah, next week, and then we're off to the races on that one. So here's one. So this is another game loop is bounty hunting. Version 2 should be coming out pretty soon. This one, let's see, where did we hit on this? So we're about 40% of the way through. I believe this one is due to wrap next year, early on in Q1. It's going to need some polishing after that, so probably going to drop with a 4.0 patch, which would make sense with Pyro being in there. You're going to have a lot of criminal elements in Pyro, so that'll be a good one. So this is just another pretty one, building interiors. More than a pretty one, this will open up a ton of game space if they can figure out, especially with Entity streaming and stuff like that, they can actually have detailed building interiors that aren't clogging up the system. But this one's 111 weeks, and significant one about this, they added about 15 weeks to it. It was like 90 weeks last time we looked at it. And again, we're probably about roughly halfway through the sprint. That's another one that they're probably targeting for 4.0 or maybe even 4.1. So we'll see. The next one on the list is actually the next one on the list. It's the cargo system refactor. This is targeted for the next patch, 3.18, not 3.17.2. It's targeted for 3.18, the next big patch. This is a big deal. It's now at 90%. Wrapping in a few weeks. It'll, of course, go through polishing with Evocati, but cargo system refactor is, now that they've kind of got their stretched out idea, looking pretty good. Let's keep going. All right, so this is one that they actually just talked about in Inside Star Citizen, where it's the new commodity kiosk, or was it a lore post? No, I think it was Inside Star Citizen, where they are wrapping this up relatively soon. So that we should start seeing, that might even make it in for 3.17.2. I wouldn't hold my breath. It'll almost certainly be in for 3.18. And since they're targeting the cargo refactor with that, there's a lot of synergy there. So look for it in 3.18. They haven't committed yet, but safe bet. If we saw it before then, I wouldn't be shocked, but I would expect it in 3.18. Let's keep going. Okay, so here's two. So the DGS Crash Recovery and Mesh Node, these are both server meshing. Both wrapping up here next week, actually. And both of these are related to if the server crashes, how can it recover? With that one, you can probably tell by the name. Mesh Node is, let's see what that is. Clients connected to the same instance of the hybrid service allows DGS to exchange entities and authority over them. So that hands off, if you're flying through from one server to another, it can hand you over something else's. Allows it to be a smooth gameplay experience as opposed to you can't see that because you're in the wrong server kind of a thing, is what I'm guessing that is. If you're a dev and you know better, tell me in the down below section. Drake Corsair. So here's one for all you Drake guys. I've got one too. We are getting pretty close. Now again, I say this every time, but just as a reminder, the downstream teams aren't on here. They will be eventually, so expect that to kick out a little bit. Drake Corsair might be good for 318. I'm sure they're kind of playing a wait and see what they do with the downstream teams. It's possible the downstream teams are working on a lot of other ships, so they aren't going to be available. So you might end up with one of those things where the vehicle content team has finished work here, and then the downstream team picks up down here. So that's totally possible. There's a reason why they haven't committed to it yet. But it looks like the actual work on the body of the ship and the interior of the ship wrapping pretty soon. So there you go, Corsair people. So this is kind of a cool fluff one. This is the ecosystem enhancements. This is basically the ecosystems on the planets and the moons acting in a more realistic fashion. This one is, let's see, 41% through. So we should start seeing that. That is probably being targeted for 4.0 if I had to guess. Let's see. Q4, maybe 318. I'd say 4.0. 4.0 is probably when they're going to switch focus to like the planets. Hallelujah on this one, the ZVA Tier 2, which yeah, you'll hear me harp on EVA a lot. This is one that needs a lot of help, and has for a long time. But good news is we're about 2.5 weeks, about 2 weeks out from EVA being finished. Note that it is not committed on the roadmap, so they might try to sneak it in, but if it's not committed, there might be a reason. There might be another team that needs to hop in on it. So right now, just know that their planned work is ending. They might have more work that they know that has to be done. That's why they're not committing to it. But back to that far through, kind of a good sign. Moving on. Okay, so here's a pair of them. They're kind of cool. The FPS devices, Tier 1, and the FPS radar and scanning. So this should just make moving around on foot a little bit more interesting. I think radar and scanning will probably be, if you're wearing the right helmet, it'll kind of work like Aliens, where it'll send out pings and you'll be able to see where things are. Maybe it might give you a map. I don't know. But the radar and scanning for FPS, that'll be a significant improvement. FPS devices, that's mostly like throwables and stuff. Let's see. While throwable and consumable devices already exist within Star Citizen as grenades and medpens, further work on the system will enable us to more easily create new items with different effects when used. Okay, cool. So yeah, we got that coming soon too. All right, for the people that like to play Star Barbie like me, they wrapped up Frontier clothing. So you can release your inner leather coat from Serenity on this one if you want to, or Gunslinger. Well, I'm kind of curious what the Frontier clothing looks like. They haven't quite nailed the look that I want for my tune yet, and I'm thinking once we get the Frontier clothing in there, I'll have something a little closer to what I'm thinking, like almost a space cowboy. But we'll see. Moving on. So here's a big one. So this is the Gen 12 render Tier 1. So of course they're going to have more tiers to this, but it just wrapped last week. 75 weeks. So yeah, that is a big deal, people. Okay, so this one's kind of related to what I was talking about earlier with systems like EVA. The map is one that's needed help for a long time, and the radar system. I'm thinking that will probably incorporate scanning, maybe. They had, for a while there, they had scanning where if you moved your ship behind an asteroid, you'd lose the lock on the ship and you wouldn't be able to scan it anymore. It'd be occluded. That might be what the radar system rework is going to do. They used to have it scanning Tier 1. They might have rolled it into this. I don't know that for sure. So for now, just lock onto that first word where it's map and be happy that they're working on the map. It's a couple weeks out. So we might have a new star map sooner than we think. Again, not committed, don't count on it, but that's a good sign. Okay, so you saw on the roadmap roundup where they were talking about the whole A, B, D, and E, how they're kind of moving them off the roadmap for now. The whole C just wrapped. Now, this isn't the first time the whole C is wrapped, And again, not committed for the next patch, but probably won't be coming in until we have server meshing and the cargo refactor. But if we get those in 3.18, Pole C should be able to drop in because the server should be able to handle it at that point. But I'm sure they're just holding in that in reserve right now until they're sure that they can get it off the ground. But anyway, we'll see. Looks like it's all ready to go. Okay, so this one is the Mission Manager app. This one was a pretty short sprint as these things go for as important this is. I think it's mostly, well, let's just read it. Alongside converting to building blocks, this feature includes an updated UI and support of the dynamic mission system. That's a big deal. Also includes the ability for players to see the reputational requirements of the mission system. So they mentioned that briefly so that when you, so you don't go get in over your head mostly. You can kind of see this is a low tier one, this is a high tier one, that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of what it is, just to kind of clean up the UI, and you're going to see a lot of that as we get closer. Mobiglass rework, this is another big one. The Mobiglass we have works, but it could definitely be improved upon. Getting close there. So, I mean, we could be having a sort of UI revolution here in the next couple patches. Moving on. Okay, so this one's kind of cool. So physical damage and breakability. So for a while I thought that this one was actually shooting columns and having them blow up or shooting holes in walls and stuff like that. Reading the description here, it sounds like it's more a physics engine of how if ships are ramming into each other, how they might compress or bend or break or dent up. They kind of had a physics demonstration in one of the shows a few years back where they had a like rock, or they just had like a ball, which is just a placeholder, kind of blow through a wall, and the wall actually deformed and pushed out. This might be related to that. If it is, if we're going to actually have things like that where hole punctures will actually be holes in the hole that you'll have to go up and patch, pretty cool. But for right now, it just sort of sounds like it's kind of an exploration. 73 weeks is a long time. That is like a year and a half in dev time in CIG. Okay, so this is a cool one. So this is the proximity mine. So I have a theory on this one that's going to be, I think you can see that this one's wrapping pretty soon. And since they're not dropping the Nautilus, this isn't going to be us dropping proximity mines. I think, especially since the narrative team is involved, I think that this one's probably going to be, it's going to be like an interdiction thing. So you will hit an area and it'll have mines in it. So you'll have to slow down and navigate through or around the mines. Pirates might be dropping them in order to slow you down so that you can't just punch the throttle and escape from them. NPC pirates, I mean, eventually will be doing this too. Allegedly. So the next one is just a couple down. So the quantum simulation and the quantum travel experience. So this is one of those things where CIG is using the word quantum so much that it's messing with them. These are two separate things. So quantum simulation is all the NPCs that are going to be, well, it's sort of the background AI that controls all the NPCs, all of the economy, where all the bad guys are, where all the good guys are. It's that simulation that Tony Z did a few years back. Quantum travel experience is us actually moving through warp space, or through the wormholes from planet to planet. So they're both quantum. They're two very, very, very different things. And let's see. So I think that we're about, yeah. So they're both wrapping next year. So these are going to be 4.0 things. Which the quantum simulation, it's a shame that's not coming with server meshing, but it looks like they're targeting it for 4.0. So once again, 4.0, it'd be pretty cool. I mean, that's kind of the understatement of the year. Moving on. Okay, so here we go. So this one's interesting. So anyone that had the Carrack, and I believe the Constellation Phoenix. I think the Constellation Phoenix. I think those two come with the RSI Lynx, which is supposed to be a better version of the Ursa, or maybe something else. We've heard about it in lore and write-ups, but we haven't actually seen it yet. But this is another rover. 3 weeks. That's just a holding place time. It's gonna take a lot more than 3 weeks. 3 weeks is just the vehicle concept team, and even though they say they're building it as a game ready vehicle, this is just the concept team because, like I was saying, we haven't seen it before in game. This is basically just them sort of saying, okay, we have this thing in lore, what the hell is it? It's kind of like the Ursa rover, but it's more luxurious, so what does this look like? So now they're handing it off to the concept team to have 3 weeks to kind of figure it out, or as much time as they need, honestly. And then the other teams will jump in and start building it out. So a rover RSI is pretty well established as far as their style guide goes. I'd say probably 20 weeks. They could probably knock that out by 4.0. Probably get that, I would guess. But again, anything ship-wise, who knows? There's other ships that they've finished that we haven't seen yet. Okay, so here's another one. So the subsumption editor integration. Excuse me. This one's more related to NPCs and what they're doing in the background, their schedules and things like that, I believe. Just wrapped up. So that one's going to play real nice with server meshing and quantum and all of that. So we might not really see the benefits for a little bit, but yeah, we might actually see some. The NPCs might start acting a little less derpy if this starts rolling out. Just something to keep an eye out. If you see NPCs acting a little more natural or actually walking like they got a purpose and going places, this might be why. Okay, kind of sad news on this one because if you're like me and you like recording things and you kind of have visions, you know what thirds are and all of that. The third person camera V2 was at 7 weeks. Now it's at 97. But again, this is one of those cases where it's not actually 97 weeks. They wrapped it back here with the vehicle experience team and then the vehicle feature team, because they're overloaded, are picking it up in Q1 next year. So it's not actually 97 weeks. It's probably, let's see, that's like 6 there, so like 14 weeks. Yeah, so it's actually closer to 14 weeks, which is more logical to my brain. It'll probably stretch out a little bit. The fact that these are both the vehicle teams kind of tells me that it might be trying to think of a way to do the landing camera in a way that is realistic as opposed to having the magic camera that's invisible that floats above your ship. But I know Chris Roberts, being a director himself, has got to love sort of the cinematic aspect of being able to have cameras taking pictures of things. So who knows where they're going to go with the camera. I'm sure it's going to be spectacular when they do, but we got to wait until next year before we get to see it. Probably 4.0. That's 4.0 territory. It's also far enough out that team might get dragged into something else, especially the vehicle. Okay, so this one's always kind of the interesting one. This is sort of the true mysteries of the roadmap is the unannounced. And so this is an old one, 23 months unannounced content. It was finished a while ago. This one's 12. Again, it's been finished a while. 43. There was one they pulled here that was running 14 weeks that had some work done on it, so that's probably one of the ships that they're releasing a concept, or if there's a ship for Alien Week that we haven't seen yet, which is looking more and more unlikely. That could be it, but one of the ships disappeared that they had been doing some work on. Could have been the Anvil Crucible. Like I said before that, oh, I didn't talk about the Crucible. I'll swing back up and do that one. They sometimes hide known ships here, and weirdly, my example was the Crucible. So maybe that 14-weeker was the sort of concept pass for the Crucible. They added a few more ships in here. One of them is enormous. Let's see if I can find it. 33 weeks, an unannounced vehicle. This is one that's actually going to be straight to flyable. 33 weeks isn't particularly large. Where is it? 54 weeks. So this one's a vehicle concept that's taking 54 weeks. So to give you an idea, the sort of re-concept pass on the Odyssey took 55. So this is something that's Odyssey size. This is a big ship. Whatever this thing is, it's big. Quarter 1 of next year. So that'll probably be a concept that they drop for the ship show and or IAE next year, if I had to guess. Or Fleet Week. It's something big. Hopefully the Pegasus. Okay. Moving on. So yeah, we got these guys are smaller. 24 is a fair size ship for a vehicle concept team. 2 weeks is not. That's like a bike. Or an exploration on a ship that's known. Let's go ahead and swing back up and look at the Anvil Crucible. I did miss a Crucible, so the Crucible is sneaking in here. So this is one of those where last time when they dropped it, they said it was 4 weeks. Somebody in a comment on another content creator's page was saying, no, the roadmap only goes out this 4 weeks. That actually isn't correct. The roadmap went out much further. They only had 4 weeks here, and it was ending in Q4. That was true in the long ago where they kind of ended it in December, and so you had everything was ending in December, and everybody's like, oh wow, everything's ending in December, so they're going to wrap all this up. And it was no, just their roadmap. The JIRA stopped tracking in December, so everything looked like it ended there. It actually went on into the next year. But that wasn't the case with this one. They had a holding spot because the work hasn't begun yet, and it's not going to be beginning for another few months. So they just kind of said, this team's going to be working on this ship starting here. So this is what they're going to be doing. Now, a couple weeks later, they've kind of gone in, and again, with the Crucible, it's one that they've had a white box pass on it before, a long time ago. And so probably what they're doing is they're kind of taking that idea and blowing it out to the new metrics and kind of redesigning things to be more anvil-y, although it did look like a pretty anvil-y ship in that original one. So I don't think they'll have to change it up too much. They do have to change the insides to kind of match the modern ship pipeline, but that's sort of what the vehicle concept team is going to be doing for the next few weeks. At a guess, that's probably one person working on that, maybe two. There's not a Squadron 42 thing here, so it's going to be a skeleton crew working on this thing. We're not getting this thing anytime soon. And then once again, you'll notice this is 4 weeks. It's just a holding spot to sort of say the EU vehicle content team will pick up work on it around the end of Q1. It's not going to be 4 weeks. A ship the size of the Crucible is going to be 70 at least. It's got little movable arms and stuff, so yeah, this is going to stretch out considerably. Expect it maybe for Q3 of next year, possible. More likely to be early 2024, but we might get it sooner than then. It's not a hugely complex ship on the inside. The only thing that's going to be weird on it is those arms are going to be a little bit weird and how they're going to have it interact with bigger ships. But other than that, that is pretty much it for this rundown on the shallow dive. So yeah, that's it, gang. See me next time.